everybody, I'm Elisa. Welcome back, and I want to go over some more basics of the nervous system, and we're dealing with the brain. So this time, I want to go over the sleep and wake basics, which are some great basics. I love sleep. So, it's cyclical. We are cyclical, and when we're taken out of our environment of knowing when the sun rises and sets and all that good stuff, it turns out that we still are cyclical, and it gets off a little bit, but it's still there. So sleep is this kind of interesting idea that we didn't know really for the longest time what it performed, and right now we finally have some more recent data that says that sleep is, at least the usefulness for your brain is that it's when we basically flush that cerebral spinal fluid brain toilet in our head, and, we're able to kind of like get a clearer head. Because if you ever notice, you just like when you go to sleep, when you wake up, it's like you get this, after a cup of coffee or two, there's all of a sudden you're just feeling really good and you can remember more and you can do stuff. I want to say like 11 a.m. is like my prime time. But then, I don't know if you ever did this, but I did this when I was in school, and I would, it'd be like 8:30 at night, right? And I would be like, you know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to finally study because, like, I got the dishes done and the kids are asleep and, like, I got off from work and, like, the laundry, You do all that stuff and then you're finally like, oh, okay, well, now it's time for me. And your brain's like, sayonara, sucker, I'm asleep. I can't remember anything. And, like, none of the facts are sticking and you're reading the same pages over and over. Right? And so the idea is that throughout the day, as you're thinking all of these thoughts, like all of these neurons, right, that are talking to each other all day long, have to do it through, neurotransmitters, right? So they're like, dumping neurotransmitter into the cerebral spinal fluid to talk. After a long day of lots of cerebral spinal fluid, accumulating all of this conversation, you get a little like, wonky, right? Like the conversation starts to kind of get a little stale, and then we're not really communicating as effectively anymore. And so that's when we need sleep to kind of come in and we flush a lot of that cerebral spinal fluid, and we, ependymal cells get much more activated, and after we kind of rest, we're refreshed and we're ready for brand new thoughts, because now we don't have as many interference biochemicals, right? And so we have these like clearer, more precise thoughts. That's kind of one of the ideas right now. Like there's a lot of ideas, but that's one that's like getting a lot of subscription. Anyway, so it's a partial unconsciousness, which you can be aroused from by certain types of stimulus for the most part. And some of us, like, it takes a lot of stimulus, and so there's like much less. It means that the cortex itself, like is pretty suppressed. It's depressed, I should say. Really, it's not. It's like patchy instead of like active all over. And we'll see how that kind of changes. But the brainstem is on, does not change, right? Because you're still needing to breathe and have heartbeats and all that other stuff. There's two major types of sleep. Rapid eye movement and non-rapid eye movement. So you've probably heard of REM sleep, right? And then the non-rapid eye movement is broken into like these 4 stages, and we'll take a brief basic look at that. Okay, so here's our stages of sleep, and here's hopefully you right now. You are awake, and your brain is busy and even and regular activity, right? But let's say you just start thinking that this is like, I watched like 7 of these videos and it's getting dark and I ate a lot of carbohydrates recently and I feel sleepy, and you decide to take a little nap. What's going to happen is you enter what we call rapid eye movement sleep, is your skeletal muscles start to just like really crash out, right? Sometimes like, some of your ocular muscles and face, and obviously your diaphragm, so you don't, stop breathing. But all your voluntary muscles just like kind of are conked out, and that's a safety measure, right? That's so you don't get up in your sleep and sleepwalk, because as you know, sleepwalking can be very dangerous, not only to the sleepwalker, but to the individuals that they encounter. So we believe that's why that kind of exists, that suppressive element. Non-rapid eye movement stage is when we begin to actually relax. Like we're not looking around. We're looking at our EEGs and we're seeing it's like relaxed and more easy, right? See, REM is still a little bit active, almost similar to awake, but now we're starting to flatten out a little bit more in this non-rapid eye movement stage 1. The thing is this is a little catnappy because you can still wake up relatively easy, right? I feel like I have my kids, like when they're little, every little sound, I wake up, like a feather drops and boom, are you guys, is everything okay? So some of you guys are pretty aware of that. Some of you all, I should say. Anyway, so non-rapid eye movement stage 2 is a regular EEG with sleep, what we call spindles, and the brain waves start doing this really interesting things. So we have like our regular amplitude here, but what we start seeing are these what we call short high amplitude bursts. So all of a sudden, it almost looks like an action potential itself. Like it goes down and then it goes up and then it comes back up to level, right? So that's a very interesting like burst form. The other thing to note is that it is regular and it's intervallic, okay, for the most part. So these spindles are they kind of they happen when they happen. They're, like I said, they're irregular, and at this point arousal is more difficult as well, right? Let me erase that so you can see it kind of all over the place, little patchies. So the non-rapid eye movement stage 3 sleep is deeper. This is in the theta, and the delta waves appear and our vital signs start to really shut down. Like, so the body starts to really start resting and getting deep into this. You can see we have again the irregularity, but we're not in as much of this like kind of balance mode. It still exists a little bit, but that's because we're seeing our like deep theta and delta wavelengths. So that's interesting as we kind of break sleep off into a few parts, and I'll show you in this next chart. But I just wanted to go over this last one. So this is non-REM sleep stage 4. So wow, what a difference, right? So these are dominated by deep delta waves. Arousal is very difficult. This is when folks feel like they are like maybe stuck in that dream. They can't wake up. This is night terrors, sleepwalking might happen here, right? So maybe we have some part of our suppressive mechanisms like suppress themselves. But let's take a look over here at this kind of next chart. So here are these wavelengths, right? And I don't know if you ever noticed this, but let's say everyone falls asleep right here. So it's a little bit, it used to be more so at sundown and a little bit more so now between like the, I don't know, eraser, there it is, okay. Now most folks seem to fall asleep between like 10 and 12 p.m., right? So here's your clock. So like you fall asleep here-ish area, right? So like at 12-ish, let's say. And then you're going to sleep for a few hours. And then there's like this weird break point, okay? So you get your, like, if you ever notice, like about 2 to 3 a.m., like everyone's awake. Like everyone's awake. Everyone's posted to social media. If you go outside, you might even hear cars. I don't know. Like it seems like you're more likely to run into somebody in your family in the kitchen right about then. People are awake for like this, like maybe 30 minutes, sometimes longer if you get on your phone. You know you shouldn't, but you did it, didn't you? Like period. And so what's interesting is people go back and like, let's just say you slept till like 6 to 8 a.m. All right. And have you ever noticed how it feels like the most restful part of sleep? Like that morning sleep, that early morning sleep, this like right in here pocket of sleep just feels so good, right? It might be related to something that the fact that human sleep tends to be very broken, right? Even ancient texts in multiple civilizations go back and they discuss the idea of like first sleep. Sorry. Sleep. And second. right? And so it's just kind of normal. And then just to throw this in there, they also say, like, if you have this like 2, 3 o'clock, a lot of other cultures, including my own, like you have like a siesta time, right? You have this like break or like this break during the day, and it's like nap. Okay, you get the same like mirror time. So it's kind of interesting the way that it's like, sleep gets staggered. So this is our sleep-wake cycle for humans, but it also kind of correlates, interestingly enough, to this idea of the broken sleep pattern. Okay. Anyway, so sleep is regulated through alternating cycles of sleep and wakefulness. Yep, you're awake, you're asleep. And it reflects what we call a natural or circadian 24-hour rhythm that is dictated by light. So RAS activity is inhibited during sleep, right? So it also mediates the sleep stages, okay? Some of the hormones or orexin that's actually released by the hypothalamus is what is going to help us like wake up, right? So hypothalamus is in there controlling, again, the sleep and sleep wakefulness cycles. Typical sleep patterns are going to alternate between REM and non-REM sleep. So the importance of sleep, we know that slow wave sleep, right? So 3 and 4 are presumed to be restorative. I don't know more than that, but I don't know. Personally, when I look at like stage 4 level sleep and I hear night terrors and sleepwalking, it kind of is like, it's hard to imagine, but I guess, it's evolutionary. Hopefully it's existing for a reason, unless it's a hangover. But anyway, it's interesting. If you all know more about sleep than I do, please email me. It's kind of really like a really cool topic. I'd like to know more. People deprived of REM sleep become moody and depressed, right? And so we learned a little bit about how sleep affects the brain and like all of the stuff that's in there all of the time. So that cerebral spinal fluid is important to switch over. And there's probably other glial functions as well, especially like maybe some glial housekeeping that occurs during that time, or other good stuff that we're going to learn about soon. And REM gives the brain the opportunity to maybe think about today's work and maybe, very importantly, forget stuff, right? You don't need to remember all the things in your day to survive. I've kind of always wondered about some of those folks who can remember every detail of every second of every day. It seems amazing, but also exhausting. So, I mean, it's curious to see how that might go. But it does, refresh you, gives you new perspective. We do know that. So maybe you're analyzing some of your events. Maybe it's just because you're having fresh cerebral spinal fluid. It allows some people maybe to work through scenarios like emotional events or problems. Some people can control their sleep through things called lucid dreaming, which is kind of something you can train your brain to do. It's very interesting, so that you can have the kind of dreams that you want to, or have control within your dreams. And then again, we talked about this, eliminate those unneeded or extra synapses that were formed during the day. Again, that idea of dreaming to forget. Oh, that does feel good. Sleep stuff. Hopefully you understand a little bit more about how the sleep-wake cycles operate. We looked at some graphs, right? So some EEGs. We've been learning about EEGs. There they are, electroencephalograms. And now you understand a little bit more about what's going on. New research is coming out every day telling us more and more about sleep. So hopefully tonight you will get some and you'll have sleepy, happy dreams about this and make long-term memories. All right. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.